I'm Syama Maher here, CEO of Scaling Retail. And today we're going to talk about the retail forecasting for 2022. Now, everyone's been experiencing such significant changes in supply chain. That could be anything from how you're sourcing product to manufacturing to even getting your product to your door so you can go ahead and fulfill orders either direct to consumer or for retail. Unfortunately, those trends in supply chain management issues are forecasted to still be quite real as we move into 2022. Meaning it's going to become very imperative that you guys are counter-sourcing, looking for alternative ways to shift your manufacturing in some cases, or even looking into diversifying your product assortment in order to kind of manage and work with the supply chain that you do have or one that you're building. So that means a lot of energy and time is going to be focused on things like logistics, right? Focusing on things like manufacturing and really looking to not just streamline what you have, but again, diversify. Now, the next trends as we look to retail are ultimately going to be the ways in which consumers are engaging with brands. Now, everyone back during COVID 2020 was certainly hit with a lot of the major reasons of why their businesses were failing vis-a-vis not having a strong direct-to-consumer platform. But now that things are starting to open up, people are shopping in person, pop-up shops are happening, craft fairs and markets are happening. We're now actually seeing, again, the introduction of back to in real life shopping events combined with also increased budgets and strategies for how we're looking at digital. So as you're looking at how you're getting in front of your customer next year, some of the things still really hold true, right? You definitely want to make sure that you are where your customer's at, but more importantly, you really want to start to tease out where you are in terms of your local community. How are you building a name for yourself locally? Right? That might mean things like, what are you doing in terms of pop-ups? How are you gaining momentum? What are your customers locally saying to you? And that I think is really important. Sometimes we think too immediate about going to major market cities like, hey, I want to get really big in New York, or I want to get really big in Los Angeles. But very rarely, right, are we able to launch in those primary markets first and receive such quite amount of press or be able to receive that same kind of footprint as if we actually look to kind of penetrate our more local markets first. And another way you could say local market could be something that's more like a secondary market across the country, right? So start to think about places like Austin as maybe a great place to kind of have a footprint, right? Or we're looking at places like Portland or Seattle as places to have a footprint, not necessarily just that New York and Los Angeles point of view. Also take a look at migration patterns, right? I know we're going to start to see people start moving back from where they moved to over the course of the pandemic, but super important to ask yourself, did my consumer go from living in New York to now living in Florida? Right? Are they staying in Florida or are they coming back to New York City? Keep your eyes and ears on the ground as you speak to your consumers, as you walk different stores, as you talk to other store owners and other brand owners. Remember, it's about building community and ecosystems of information. And in many cases, even here where I'm living in San Francisco, this was actually a COVID move. Before this, I was living in LA. And we saw a lot of people from San Francisco moving to places like Austin or even moving to places like Montana. So we're gonna see in 2022 two things. One is a migration back to some of the major market cities, but also some fallout as we see people who are actually choosing to live in other markets. That's going to be really impactful for you as you look at sales strategies and you look at your marketing cadence for next year. The other thing you're going to really want to keep your eyes on are the role of digital. And I don't just mean digital advertising and marketing, but I actually mean more specifically the role in which you're looking at digital skins for your products, the ways at which you're relating to things like NFTs, how you're actually integrating and looking at Web 3.0 in terms of what that means for your small business. The new future of how we look at e-commerce and how we look at the web is emergent upon us. This is a very unique and rare opportunity for those of us who are business owners to find a way to engage in Web 3.0 in a way that's going to activate and entice our customers, but also future-proof what we're doing. So operationally, very important to develop a perspective on what that means for your business, right? And develop a thesis around that. Other things in terms of retail 2022, we're also looking at things like reverse logistics becomes a huge component. We saw this happen so much in the last 18 months where a lot of brands ended up shipping products out to customers, but it was so expensive and time consuming to receive those goods back that they ended up telling the customers to go ahead and keep the product because they didn't even want to issue, right, that return receipt to have them send it back. They said, hey, we'll refund you your money, keep the goods, we don't want it. Over time, that ends up becoming a huge loss. So how you start to take a look at your logistics and how you look more importantly at reverse logistics, I think is going to be a major component here. Now, one thing that's really great is we're seeing the rise of different kinds of financing in 2022. Over this past year, we saw the rise of growth financing, and that's companies like Clearbank, companies like Settle that are actually underwriting your businesses without having a personal guarantee. So your business sales and volume is what's generating and substantiating that loan. That I think is very, very important. We also have obviously things like Shopify financing, things like PayPal, etc. But this is going to be a huge market. In fact, what I like so much about this marketplace in terms of growth financing is that it doesn't require, again, that you take on a huge line of credit or that you take on a huge loan. It simply works with the mechanics of what's happening within your space. Now, what that's not going to be helpful for is financing inventory needs, right? It's not going to be helpful for financing bigger purchase orders, right? Purchase orders that go back to retailers are going to finance that through a factoring company. And then when it comes to getting the production financed, that's going to be either through getting a line of credit, right, or looking at financing your purchase order, right? So you finance your purchase order and then you factor the receivables. So different things that are happening within the finance world that I think are really exciting as far as it relates to growing small business. Huge, huge opportunity with that. And then lastly, as we look at the future of retail in 2022, sustainability takes a major player in this game. As we took a look at what happened this past year in terms of not only the rise of awareness around things like climate change and the rise of awareness in terms of how there's a huge focus on manufacturing and sustainability, companies like Allbirds that have IPO'd actually really indicate to us in the industry that people are willing to put their money where their mouth is when it comes to sustainability. As an ethos, as a platform, as an ideology, this bodes really well for the sustainable marketplace and how not just consumers, but investors are looking at building out sustainable markets and how we can actually do that better. In this past year, I had the privilege of working with quite a few impressive and amazing sustainably driven brands that are focused not just on producing the best product, but really focused on creating the best customer experience. And that I think really has to be at the foundation of everything we do this year, right? What is it that we're doing that's giving our customer the best experience, the best product that's in alignment with our ethos and their ethos? That is really where we find the right fit. So sustainability, not only in terms of where the market is headed, but also in terms of the actual supply chain. Over the last few years, we've seen the rise of banana fabrics, mushroom fabrics, right? Apple leather. We're seeing the rise of so many innovative platforms and technologies around manufacturing and creating amazing sustainable products. That, once we reach a little bit of scale with that, is going to be a lot more democratized, and the access to that for small business is going to be much more substantial. What I'm personally waiting for is for a major company to really get behind it and start to fuel the production and scale it out so the price points go down. As of now, we're at a little bit of an interesting mismatch, right? We have consumers who are interested in buying high-end luxury goods, but they're still getting educated on how exclusive it is to actually buy a high-end, sustainable, vegan product that maybe isn't made from leather. So we're trying to bridge the gap here in terms of luxury feel and marketplace and equating that to the price point with a product that is made from plants. That I think is going to start to close the gap this year in 2022. All indicators of the luxury brands I've seen are incredible product. The market is really having a great fit in terms of resonating with it. Challenges are still around costing. My hope out there is we start to see decreases in cost of goods so we can actually have those brands be sustainable, right? Financially sustainable over time. All right, guys, that's all for me in terms of our general forecast for retail in 2022. If you're interested in implementing growth strategies into your business, you're ready to have a co-CEO by your side to help you execute, plan, and develop, shoot me an email at hello@scalingretail.com. If it's your first time launching or you're unsure of the white space and opportunities for your business, our agency has the privilege of incubating brands, identifying white spaces, and taking them to market. So shoot us an email. We can see what we can do for you. All right, guys, talk to you later. Bye.